1 year ago, I started a project to improve the foundations for my life. A foundation is a universal practice that supports a good life. Each month, I picked a particular theme, read books, and worked on new habits and practices. In all, I worked on improving my fitness, productivity, money, food, reading, outreach, sleep, reflection, connection, focus, organization, and service. Overall, I'm very happy with how the year went. I made improvements in nearly all of the 12 foundations I tackled. For some, the changes were relatively minor, but in others, they were dramatic. Beyond the specific improvements, though, the project left me feeling generally happier than before I began. It's hard to pin down the overall bump in well being to any specific habit change. Rather, I think making small upgrades across many areas of my life have generally contributed to feeling more relaxed, happy, and engaged. And personally, this bump in well being is the most important outcome of the project. But it's obviously a subjective measure that's prone to bias. If I focus only on objective metrics, here are the changes that I made in each foundation for the year. Number one, fitness. So at the start of the year, and also in the fifth month in November, I did a basic fitness test, doing a 1.5-mile run test as a proxy for VO2 max, as well as a number of consecutive push-ups and pull-ups that I could do. Running 1.5 miles took me 11 minutes before the project started, and my speed peaked around the fifth month, going down to 9 minutes and 20 seconds. At the start of the project, I could do 3 consecutive pull-ups and 24 push-ups with good form, and at the end, I could do 10 pull-ups and 50 push-ups. I also completed my first marathon in May, something that had been on my bucket list for years. For productivity, I adopted a shared calendar to-do list system with my wife, which had been lacking in our ability to coordinate events from before. For money, I set up a registered education savings plan for my kids and got term life insurance. Saving, investing, and expense tracking were already solid prior habits. As for healthy eating, I lost 13 pounds of weight, going from a high of 177 pounds to 164 pounds, which I've managed to sustain for the last 6 months. For reading, I finished 102 books for the project itself in the past year, 105 in total, including some outside reading. With outreach, I didn't greatly increase my socializing, but I did set up a system of reminders for reaching out to older friends. Now for sleep, according to my Fitbit, my average nightly sleep went from an average of 6 hours and 47 minutes in the 6 months prior to the sleep month and has been 7 hours and 12 minutes in the 7 months since, an increase of 25 minutes. I also restarted my journaling habit for reflection with nearly 100 entries in the past 5 months. For connecting with loved ones, I maintained a no phone time for family dinners, although I didn't reach my intended goal of clear no phone boundaries for all of my time at the home, so there's still a little bit of work to do there. For focus, I started using the daily highlight method taught in the book Make Time. And for organization, I decluttered all of my personal possessions at home and in the office. Now, I did fall short of a complete house declutter, however, with my kids' stuff and some communal items that still remain to be sorted through. Still, I achieved my goal of organizing my private spaces and finding a place for my personal things. As for service, I donated blood and made financial contributions to charity, both lump sum and monthly. I wasn't able to start volunteering in that month, but I've made some inroads to getting a regular volunteering opportunity beyond the year. Now, I learned a ton from the 102 books that I read this year, but I learned just as much from the process of trying to make and sustain behavior changes. So here are some of the biggest takeaways that I got from this process over the last year. Number one, habits are temporary. For change to last, you need to change your attitudes. Now, I started with a very consistent fitness habit at the beginning of the project, and I still exercise every day today, but I don't follow my original routine. What changed was a switch in both the priority I gave to exercising in my life, as well as how much I enjoyed it and how much it was integrated into my interests. Any particular habit is ultimately just a vehicle for hopefully getting you to a place where sustaining a behavior is intrinsically motivating for you. Number two, problems are much easier when you make them the priority. So many of my sticking point foundations became easy when I made them the priority for the month. Too often we let problems linger because we never devote enough attention to actually resolving them. Number three, it's very rarely the case that there's nothing you can do. So pessimism is common when you're dealing with a difficult foundation, but it's exceedingly rare that there's literally nothing you can do to make it better. So for instance, I began my sleep foundation with a lot of pessimism owing to the unpredictable sleep patterns of my young kids, but I actually did manage to make significant improvements that month. Number four, Good enough is underrated. So while we all admire top performers, those rare people who reach a vaunted ideal in some aspect of their life, for most of us, doing the minimum across a wide range of activities is actually more important. Number five, you need to involve the other people in your life. So there wasn't a single foundation that didn't involve my wife in some way. Sometimes that was direct, such as coordinating our expense tracking, decluttering the house, or connecting over conversations. But often it was indirect, like finding times where we could both exercise or finding food to cook that met our standards while also being palatable for our kids. At a more general level, I think the biggest takeaway was simply that it is possible to make major sustained improvements to your life across all areas. That contrary to widespread belief, including my own, it is possible to find an equilibrium in your life where your health, career, relationships, and mental well being are all good.